We've had another good week. The children have worked really hard and seem to be enjoying the maths lessons. We spent a couple of days looking at rotation, and in these sets of 4 grids we can see in the first line we've got a kite. It's being rotated around that central rotation point, and it rotates in a jump of 90, then another 90 to 180 for half a turn, and 3/4 turn, 3 nines are 27, 3 90s 270, that's a 3/4 turn. Good piece of work. On this piece of work we're rotating on some axes, and we're looking at this shape here, and it's rotating around this central point here. What makes this a little bit harder is that on some of the easier ones the rotation point might have been attached to the actual shape you were rotating. This one, there was this clear gap, and you had to make sure that you had the same gap in all the other rotations that you did. On Thursday we had a look at reflection, and this was a particularly good one. We've got a vertical reflection here that the children have done. When they did the reflection, they were taught how to do reflection using tracing paper, and they use tracing paper in a different way for the rotations too. They had to be careful and check that the distances either side of the reflection line were the same. This one's really good, it just could do with being extended a little bit here, but we check here, we've got 3 squares gap there, 3 squares gap there, for example, a 5 square gap there, 5. It's a good way of checking that we've done the reflection correctly. And the oblique reflection axes were even trickier, done really well here. Check again that vertex compared to that vertex, where we've got a gap of 1 again. If we look at this vertex and this vertex, 1.5 squares, 1.5 squares, and so on. A really good piece of work there. Earlier in the week we did translations, and that's when an identical shape is simply moved and redrawn, and we did this in different quadrants for coordinates work, and the coordinates tell you what the translation is. So in this example the x-axis coordinates has changed from 4 to 12, so it must have been moved right 8. Its y-axis has changed from 11 down to 9, so it must have been down 2. And all the children managed to do this work also in 4 different quadrants. Really good piece of work here, correctly identifying the coordinates of one vertex. Here we've gone from -8 to -2, so it must have been translated right 6, and it's gone from 8 on the y-axis to 4, so it must have been down 4. On Friday we worked on angles. Children should know what an acute, obtuse, straight and reflex angles are, and they were really pretty good at using the protractor. And at the end of Friday's lesson we started looking at this rather challenging piece of work, and here we see that this child has used the protractor to measure one angle, and then has used that information to reason the size of the angles around a point. Their homework is some work on translations and reflections, and that should be in their folder. If they've borrowed a pencil or a ruler to do that, please make sure it comes back on Tuesday. Thanks very much. Another good week's hard work.